All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for your patience. We were just having a little bit of technical difficulties this morning, but we got it all worked out. So thank you and welcome to our next topic in our series of Secrets of Successful Retirement. Today we'll be discussing help if you're disabled, ways to help with Social Security disability. And we have a wonderful guest speaker, Greg Reed, who's a partner at the law office Bemis, Roach and Reed, and he'll be presenting for us today. All right, so at Senior Resource Center, we help in 4 different ways. We do a comprehensive retirement planning, looking out into your future to make sure that you don't outlive your money and finding ways to make income for the future. The second is tax planning, just finding ways in your lifestyle and in your estate planning to pay less tax. We don't do tax prep, but we just find ways to help people pay less tax. We do a lot of extensive long-term care planning. That includes insurance products, helping people protect and preserve their assets, and qualifying for federal and state programs like VA aid and attendance and Medicaid. And then lastly, we do estate planning. We just want to make sure that we help you know what items you need to protect yourself when you're living and then when you pass away. All right, so if you've been with us since February, we've been doing a series of topics. These are the ones that we have covered back in February, March, and into April. And now we're almost to the end. So today's the 10th of May. We've got 2 more planned. So we're really looking forward to hearing all that Greg has to say in his topic today. All right, so I'm going to pass it over to my business partner, Bill, and he's going to take it from here.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you again for joining us. As always, Tara is going to record this session, and we're going to post it up on our website, srctexas.com. So if you have friends, relatives, neighbors that are dealing with this topic, it's a place they can go back and listen to it at their leisure. We always have this disclaimer: everyone's situation in life is unique and different, and so your situation determines the specific legal services and documents you need. And Tara and I are not attorneys. We ask you that you refer all legal questions to a licensed legal professional, an attorney. And we're really blessed today to have Greg Reed with us. Greg is one of the partners at Bemis, Roach and Reed. And if you've read my book, you know at the end I have a listing of probably 24 trusted partners that we've worked with over many years. And there's things that are in our wheelhouse, but then there's things that we're not experts in, but we've formed strategic partnerships with a number of very good affiliates. And Bemis, Roach and Reed is one of those. They are experts in helping people with disability planning. And this will be my last slide, but just want to say, what is the issue? And what we're finding is a lot of people are becoming disabled in this country before full retirement age. And our experience is that many people have tried to claim disability benefits either through Social Security or private insurance. And to be very blunt, this is not a DIY opportunity. It's one where you really want some type of professional assistance. There's things in my book that I tell people, they can try to do them themselves, but there's some topics I go, this is not a DIY, and definitely disability planning falls into that realm. So with that, let me introduce our guest speaker, Greg Reed. Greg, take it away.
Good morning, Bill. Good morning, Tara. Good morning, everyone who is listening. Before I get into the really heart of the disability conversation, I'd like to tell you all a little bit about Bemis, Roach and Reed. Bill talked about us being a partner, and we're proud that he selected us for that. We've been in business since 1993. All of us are graduates from the University of Texas School of Law, and all of us are board certified. So we've got basically more than 100 years of legal experience and decades of experience in dealing with disability law. Bill mentioned of long-term disability, private disability, and he mentioned Social Security. And he's right. They're both important. They do tie together. Today's conversation is going to be about Social Security disability because it's just too much information to cover in a 45-minute session to have both. But we do both. We do long-term disability, which comes in several components. There's an ERISA component, which is Employee Retirement Income Security Act, and it's typically an insurance product that is given to employees by their employer. It has a lot of restrictions on it because it is a federally established program, basically private insurance, but it's a statute that was authorized by Congress to encourage businesses to provide this benefit. So there's some limitations to it. And then there's private disability insurance that you can purchase outside of an employment relationship. And we do that as well. We also handle disability claims for teachers, teacher retirement system, state of Texas employees, which is Employees Retirement System of Texas. But today's conversation is Social Security disability. And Bill, if you have the slide up for Title II and Title 16, or Tara, I guess you're handling that. The Social Security disability that everyone thinks about, it really comes in two flavors. And it is a Title II benefit, which is Social Security Disability Benefit, SSDI. It's also referred to DIB, Disability Insurance Benefit. And then it comes in Title 16, which is Supplemental Security Income. We could go to the next slide. Disability defined, and it's the same for both, for SSI and for SSDI. It requires that you have an inability to engage in any substantial activity, SGA, substantial gainful activity, by reason of any medically determinable physical or mental impairments which can be expected to result in death, or which has lasted or can expected to last for a continuous period of not less than 12 months. It's a tough definition, and it is significantly more difficult getting disabled and qualifying in Social Security terms than it is in private disability insurance, because they tag that definition of disability with SGA, substantial gainful activity. The sad fact is that you can be extremely disabled, and yet the definition prevents you from receiving benefits because you're earning too much money. And I give the example of folks who are a quadriplegic. Say the only thing you can do is move a computer mouse with your eyes. And if you are able to work as a blogger, work as an author, do something and earn $1,350 in 2022, it doesn't matter that you are a quadriplegic because the law says that you are not disabled. Now, I find it pretty offensive that Social Security considers $1,350 substantial gainful activity. I certainly live on it, nor do I think most Americans could live on it. But that is the borderline for what is qualifying for disability. And it's the very first thing that they look at. They don't even go to your health conditions if you are earning more than that amount of money. And I always get that question from people: if I am disabled, can I continue to work? In answer to that question, I tell them, yes, you can, but you cannot earn, certainly not more than $1,350, but that's actually even too much as well. You can truthfully only earn about $800 a month if you are on disability, because the red flags will go up at Social Security, and if you're earning more than $800 for a period of 6 months, you have exceeded what is called a trial work period, and you will lose your disability benefits. So if we could go to the next slide, Tara. When we're talking about qualifying for disability, after they analyze your income, the next issue is the health that prevents you from being able to engage in substantial gainful activity. And Social Security has body listings in what they call the Blue Book, and the link is on the screen before you, in 14 separate categories. Those categories include both mental conditions and physical conditions. They have certain cancers on there. They have back problems, heart issues, digestive tract issues, inflammatory arthritis, immune system issues. But you can envision that there are certainly many health conditions that are not in those 14 separate categories. And I'll give you just a few examples. Very, very common conditions. Diabetes, for example, is not in these listings. Well, diabetes can be extraordinarily debilitating. It can result in retinopathy of the eyes. It can result in neuropathy, loss of feelings in your extremities, hands, fingers. You can end up having sores that develop and you don't even know you've got them. They won't heal. But diabetes is not in this listing. It doesn't automatically follow that you can't qualify for diabetes, because you can. You just have to establish that the non-listed health condition prevents you from working in some type of vocational fashion. And another example, perhaps common to many people who are listening today or who you know, migraines. Everyone who has ever met anyone who has a migraine recognizes that it can prevent you from being able to engage in anything. You can't watch TV. You can't enjoy your family, friends. Can't even eat a meal. Many times what you want to do is just stay in a dark, cold place with no sound and hibernate. That's not listed in Social Security. So again, the question is, how do you qualify for disability if your condition is not one of these listed conditions? And you establish that you are prevented from working, you are prevented from concentrating by the severity of your condition. And then obviously you have to establish that it is something that has either lasted for 12 months or is expected to result in death. Next slide, please, Tara. For SSDI, excuse me, which is the Social Security Disability Insurance, not everyone qualifies. In order to qualify for SSDI, you have to have a certain number of credits. And this is a lot of times confused by folks who are not in the industry. People think credits are something that you earn over the course of a year by working a quarter. Obviously 4 quarters in a year, so if you work 4 quarters, you get 4 credits. That is a common belief, but it is not correct. A credit is actually a dollar figure. In 2022, a credit equals $1,510 in wages, and it must be subject to FICA taxes. FICA taxes are what you pay as an employee. You pay 6.2%. Your employer pays 6.2%, and you pay about 1.45% for your Medicare benefit. If you are self-employed, like a lot of us are, then you get to pay the whole thing. FICA was established in 1935 by President Roosevelt. It is the Federal Insurance Contribution Act, and it funds Medicare, it funds Social Security disability. When I say that you earn a credit with $1,510 in wages, you can work one day. Say you get a project that you have completed in late 2021 and you're paid based on some type of commission, a commission that comes through in January of 2022, and your commission is $10,000. Well, if you're paying FICA taxes on that $10,000, you have already earned your 4 credits for 2022, you need not work another day, not earn another penny, and you've earned your 4 credits. So you don't have to work 4 quarters. You can earn those credits quickly. You can earn them over time. You just have to earn the $1,510 in wages. And bottom line is that you can put that together. And if you earn $6,000, just slightly over $6,000 in a year, you have earned your 4 credits for that year. In general, you've got to have a minimum of 40 credits to qualify for disability. And the recent work test says that you must have 20 of those credits in the past 10 years prior to claiming disability. And the reason for that is because it is insurance. Just like homeowners insurance, auto insurance, if you don't pay premiums, your policy will lapse. And for Social Security disability insurance, if you don't have those recent credits, the 20 credits in 10 years, you are no longer covered. So you would have to reach back and say, my disability began during the period that I was covered. Next slide, please. Social Security benefits are not really a lot of money. It helps, but the average range for a Social Security disability benefit is $800 to $1,800 per month. The maximum in 2022 is $33.45. And when you think in terms of what an average salary in Austin works to be, you're talking about replacing $80,000, $100,000 with $3,300 maximum. That is the maximum you can collect. So even Bill Gates would collect no more than $3,345. It's good to have other irons in the fire if you're going to be on disability, either to have some type of savings set aside, 401k, or some other income source. If you are on disability, you are entitled to receive back benefits 1 year from the date of your application. And this happens quite frequently. Folks will end up getting a health condition that takes them out of work, but they're optimistic. The doctors are optimistic, and it is their hope that they can return to the workplace. Sometimes it works out. Sometimes they go back for a little bit, and then they fail. Sometimes they can't go back at all. So, for example, if you have a serious car accident in 2019, you go to rehab, you plan on going back to work, you give it a try, and your body just doesn't cooperate. Well, here we are in 2022, and you've not filed for disability because it had always been your plan to return to work. Well, what happens with all of the benefits that could have accrued from 2019, the date of the accident, until now? Well, quite frankly, you've lost some of them. In order for you to collect all benefits on the disability claim, you need to file your claim within 17 months of the date that you can no longer work. Because Social Security will pay this 1 year of benefits from the application date, and there is a 5-month wait for benefits before you are going to receive your first check. Even that quadriplegic example that I gave you, even if you are in an accident that is horrific and prevents you from being able to use your arms and legs, there's still a 5-month wait for benefits. There are a couple conditions that waive Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, extreme kidney disease. They will waive the 5 months, but virtually every other condition has that 5-month wait for benefits. Your family receives benefits as well if you are deemed disabled by Social Security. And the family benefit total is anywhere from 150% to 180% of the individual benefit. The family members who are entitled to receive benefits are unmarried children under 18, and I apologize for that typo there. Children over 18 if disabled prior to age 22, That happens quite a bit. You got kids who are disabled, and obviously they're incapable and unable to financially care for themselves even after they reach adulthood. And spouses who are 62 years or older. All spouses who are their age child. I didn't include that on the slide. Next slide, please, Tara. This is one, SSI is a program that anyone who is listening to this webinar, I do not expect will be applying for SSI, but it's possible, and you certainly may have family members or friends who would need this information. SSI is called Supplemental Security Income, and it is need-based. No credits are required. In a lot of instances, you may have a non-working spouse, husband, or as children cared for the family members while the other spouse works. They haven't worked, they haven't developed a credit history with Social Security, and this may be the only program that is available to them to provide any income whatsoever if they end up becoming disabled. Since it is not insurance, there are strict limitations on both the amount of the benefit and on the qualifiers for the benefit. The definition of disability is the same, but you cannot qualify for this benefit if you have too much money, since it is need-based. The asset restrictions for an individual is $2,000. That's not much. $2,000 certainly is not going to pay more than a couple months rent. So for folks who are applying for SSI, just as Social Security looks to find whether you are earning over substantial gainful activity before they determine your disability, they will also look at your assets before going to the disability definition and determination. So if you have too much in assets, the application's immediately. Married couples have a $3,000 cap. The assets that Social Security looks to do not include personal residence, one personal residence. You got a vacation home, they do count that. One car, household goods, furniture, TVs, things like that, personal effects, up to $100,000 in an ABLE account. That is a relatively new development in Social Security. The purpose of having an ABLE account is to allow a disabled individual to have money to pay for things that the disability requires. For example, medication, transportation, home care, medications, things like that. And then also a special needs trust is typically exempt. Special needs trusts are an older vehicle, older than ABLE, and special needs trusts don't have any limit on the amount of money that can be in them. Next slide, please. SSI benefits, as I mentioned, are need-based, and they don't provide much in the way of help either. The standard federal benefit, $841. The average payment, however, is less than that. The average payment is $604. The reason that it is less than the $841 is because they deduct from that $841 any income that you may receive from family. Gifts, for example, that you receive. If your family gives you $1,000, if your family gives you in-kind services, if they pay your cable bill, if they pay your phone bill, if they pay your rent, those are considered by Social Security to be income, and they will reduce your $841 proportionately. We live in Texas. Texas is pretty frugal when it comes to handing out money, and some states pay extra. Texas does not really. I mean, they'll pay $60, but only if you're in a nursing home. So there's a very isolated set of instances that Texas will pay additional benefits. Next slide, please. Bill and Tara obviously are experts in talking about Medicare and the types of supplemental programs that are available. But I want to give you a brief primer on this. Medicare is only available for individuals disability-wise who are on SSDI. Obviously, if you have the proper credits, everyone qualifies at age 65, but you can receive SSDI and then qualify for Medicare even if you are under age 65. Your eligibility is 24 months on pay status, however, and remember there's that 5-month wait for benefits. So think about this in terms of that example that I gave you, an accident in 2019. If you lose your job, many people lose their insurance. They don't have the funds to pay for COBRA. Hopefully they do, but if they don't have the funds to pay for COBRA, that means that before they will for Medicare, there's going to be 29 months that pass. So they have the possibility, the distinct possibility of being without insurance for 29 months. That 24 months of pay status on disability, the 5-month wait for benefits, 29 months. It ends up being a little bit of an issue, even for those who do take advantage of COBRA insurance. Now, COBRA is a wonderful program that was put together by the federal government, law entitling folks to take advantage of continued insurance from their employer, and it can last 18 months and longer, but 18 months is the typical period that COBRA is utilized. The cost of COBRA ends up being a significant factor. Most companies require that their employees pay only a portion of the insurance when they are employed. The employer covers a component and the employee covers a component. So insurance is a bit more affordable for employees. When you're on COBRA, the employer portion typically stops. So the employee is required to cover the entire cost of insurance. It becomes quite expensive. Now, if it is only 18 months, in order to extend that COBRA coverage to your eligibility date for Medicare, you must give your COBRA administrator knowledge of your Social Security award within 60 days of your receipt, and it must be before the end of that 18 months of COBRA. That sometimes is a problem because, quite frankly, Social Security sometimes is slow, and sometimes you don't actually get your determination by the end of the 18 months of COBRA, and you're kind of just out of luck at that point in time. Tara, could we go to the next slide? And this is probably one of the more interesting aspects of disability in terms of what we do in our experience. Do you need a lawyer? The trend, we've been doing this for decades, and we certainly feel this, as do our clients, the trend is looking worse. In 1999, 43% of claims were approved after the final efforts were made. And there's a 3-step process. There's an initial application, there's reconsideration, and then there's court, a hearing stage before an administrative law judge. That 43% in 1999 is all approvals at all stages. So that is the total. In 2017, the number had dropped by 11%. So only a third received approvals in 2017. Right now, 22% are receiving approvals at the initial application. And the reason for the variance is really the 3 factors that I have below. Age of applicant is a huge factor in your approval. Social Security breaks down claims by age, and they consider a person 50 years and older somewhat less likely to be able to retrain, less likely to be able to become educated on another occupation. So it is easier to qualify if you are 50 years or older. they have another break at age 55, and then also as you closely approach retirement age of over 60. The support of your doctor is also critically important. Many people have never looked at their medical records. They will go to their doctor and think that they've had an excellent conversation with their doctor, and they file for disability. And they just assume that their record will support it. That's not necessarily the case. I always advise folks who are going to be applying for disability to take a look at your medical records, because what people don't realize is that having a diagnosis doesn't necessarily mean that you're disabled. You have, for example, folks in your family who have conditions, but they continue to work. I've got folks in my office who have back issues, who have foot problems, knee problems, hip issues. Some may have migraines, and yet they're all able to work. So just going into your doctor and telling him that you have a variety of health conditions isn't going to cut it. You have to have doctors who support the contention that you are unable to engage in employment. And it may be your job that they say that you can't do, which was maybe too physically demanding for you. The doctor may say, no, you're going to have to do something later. Well, if the doctor says something like that, it probably isn't going to be good enough for Social Security purposes. The doctor's support really has to be all-encompassing. It needs to be he cannot, she cannot work. Because remember, that $1,300 substantial gainful activity comes up, and Social Security will say, yeah, we recognize that you can't be a plumber, you can't be a carpenter, but we think that you can be a receptionist. We think that you can fold paper and put it in envelopes. We think that you can sit on a stool out in front of Walmart and greet customers. They don't care that you are earning $100,000 as a software guy. They don't care that you were earning $80,000, $90,000 as a plumber. If you can earn $1,300, Social Security will turn down your claim. So the doctor's support is absolutely critical. The last one I think is important. Bill talked about it. Is this a DIY issue? It probably is not. The nice thing about Social Security attorneys and disability attorneys in general, you almost always are able to consult with those attorneys for no fee. We will talk with you. We will hear the facts of your case, the facts of your conditions, and then we'll give you our opinions. And I certainly will not take your case if I believe that you don't need to hire an attorney. Go to the next slide, please, Tara. Attorney fees in a Social Security case are governed by statute. It is a contingency fee, 25% of back benefits with the maximum fee of $6,000. Now, a contingency fee is one that means you pay nothing unless the attorney on your behalf succeeds in making a recovery. That's great. You have nothing at risk. $6,000 is not insubstantial. It is a lot of money for somebody to pay for an attorney, but it's certainly not retirement money for me. So if I think that you are better off filing the claim on your own and saving that $6,000, I'm going to tell you that. And I don't do it a lot, but I probably do it in about 10% or 15% of the folks who end up giving a consultation. I give a consultation to. I'll tell you a personal kind of horror story on whether you need an attorney. My wife was diagnosed with brain cancer in 2012. She had an oligodendroglioma, which is not the worst kind of brain cancer you can have. It wasn't a glioblastoma, but she had 2.5 inches of her front left lobe removed. She was on chemotherapy for a year. We filed for disability for her. She was working. She was earning a substantial amount of money, worked at a family law firm downtown as a paralegal. But she couldn't work after that. She couldn't remember things, cognitive issues. She'd come down for breakfast and she'd say something like, I think I want to have pajamas for breakfast today. Well, I understood, and she just couldn't do it. We filed for Social Security disability. They turned her down. Now, how can that be? Well, Social Security bundled up her medical records, sent those records to a reviewing doctor. And remember how I described Social Security doesn't care what your former job was. That doctor that they sent these records to made the determination, you know what, we agree, she is severely limited. However, we think that maybe she could work at some type of lesser demanding intellectually job. Maybe she could be that person that folds paper and puts it into an envelope. Maybe she could be the person who applies prices at a grocery store. All she has to do is run this little machine over the product. We ended up making the appeal, had to go to a judge, before a judge, and she was granted benefits. But that is kind of an example of the challenges that you face with Social Security now. It is not an automatic approval by any means. Next page, Tara. On general information, if you have not done so, Social Security has a wonderful website, and it is at www.ssa.gov. It's nice to open your online account there because you can check to find out whether or not you have been credited with the proper wages over the years. Many people have mistakes on their wage history. My brother and I got our Social Security cards on the same date. My mom took us down. Back in those days, you didn't get it when you were born, you got it basically when you went down to Social Security and you said, I'd like a Social Security card. Well, somewhere during the course of the next 20 years, my brother accidentally started using my number. He wasn't trying to steal my identity or anything like that, but it happened. So we didn't quite have the right wages attributed to our accounts, and we had to clean it up. But it would be nice to know that, and you have the ability to know that if you go to ssa.gov and create your own account. You're also eligible to apply for benefits online. You can manage your benefits online and get proof of benefits if you're receiving them. And you may need that in terms of applying for credit. You may need it when you try to get a new mortgage, try to refinance something. So it's a good resource to have. I've been going on for a little bit. It's about 10:44 right now. I'm going to ask Bill and Tara to invite me back next year when they do these webinars again, and I will do a session on long-term disability. But I think that I've just about covered my time today, and I will make myself available for any questions you may have. Our website is www.b, as in boy, rrlaw.com. I didn't put it on these slides, probably should have. We're an Austin firm, as I mentioned, and we do provide free consultations. So if you have any questions, please give us a call. Lonnie, Lloyd, and I all do disability work, so you can talk to any of us. And thank you, Bill and Tara, for inviting me.
Greg, I'll tell you, your talk hits on a theme that Tara and I have seen over and over again in our practice. And that is, we deal with Medicaid benefits, which are a federal program, VA benefits, another federal program. We work with Medicare and Social Security. And over and over again, we see this repeating theme that these great entitlements are also huge bureaucracies that, they create an opportunity for a benefit, but then they make it mighty difficult to get the benefit that you've earned. And I I think your talk today really speaks to that, that this is another area that where people really need some guidance and some help, some hand holding so that they get the benefits that they've earned and qualified for. Tara, do we have
It's
any
very
questions?
frustrating. It's frustrating for people because they have been working for years and years and years, and this is insurance. And when you think about applying for disability insurance, we gave you examples. You're typically talking about a person who is giving up a substantial wage in order to try to qualify for a benefit that's not really that substantial. And they say, why? Why am I not getting approved? Well, it really comes down to a dollars game. Everyone has this fear that Social Security is not going to be available as they age. It may not be available for your grandchildren because it's running out of money. The disability component is a separate pool, and quite frankly, it was running out of money even quicker than the retirement pool. In 2017, it was about out totally. It just almost got to zero, the disability component of Social Security. And they moved some funds around and ended up refunding it. But that's really the driving reason that these numbers have been trending downward on the approvals. And it is frustrating, and probably one more reason why it might be good to get professional help if you're going to go that route.
All right, well, we have a couple questions. So one of the questions is how long does it take to get approved?
I'll give you a personal example, and then I'll give you the average. My wife, I mentioned to you, became sick in 2012. She had a seizure in May, so she was almost now 10 years from the date of her first seizure. Never had seizures before. Went to bed that night, had 3 grand mal seizures, called an ambulance, found out the next day that she had brain cancer. So we made the claim pretty quickly. She did not get her final approval until November of 2014. So that's 2012, all of 2012, 2013, it took over 2 years, almost 2.5 years. Now that's if you have to go all the way to court. Your initial claim, if you make that online, can typically be resolved within 3 months on average. That even seems like a long time, but remember, when you make that initial claim, you're giving Social Security a bunch of information that they have to verify. You give them your doctor's names, you give them the medications that you're taking, you give them the jobs that you've had. Social Security orders those records, and it takes a while for them to come in. When they receive all of the information, they then forward that information to reviewing doctors. Most of the time, it is a combination of a physical doctor and either a psychologist or a psychologist, because there's generally a mental component to a lot of health issues. If you've got cancer, it's not going to be surprising. You may also have depression. Those doctors then review the medical records that they've received. They haven't ever touched you, laid hands on you, examined you. They're looking at pieces of paper that are sitting on their desk, and they thumb through them and they make a determination on your functionality. They say, okay, I've looked at these records. I deem that this person can sit for 6 hours, can stand and walk for 6 hours, can lift 25 pounds. Your records may never say or comment on any of those things, but this reviewing doctor forms that opinion. It takes time. And so it is about 3 months from application to the first answer. And then if you file for reconsideration, if you are turned down, it is many more months. And then obviously, if you have to wait to go to court, then you have a substantial period before you are going to get to the courthouse. In the times of COVID, it's gone a little bit, surprisingly, it's gone a little bit quicker. The reason for that is because the hearings that they've been conducting have been by telephone because they don't want to gather a bunch of disabled sick people in a room. So they've been doing by telephone, and the hearing wait has been reduced a little bit. But still, you're looking at probably a year and a half if you're going to have to go to court. 3 months to a year and a half.
Greg, I think that's we've covered a lot of ground today, and once again, want to thank you for joining us. You do have an open invitation to come back when Tara and I put our next series on. I think a side topic might be talking about private insurance, disability insurance, and what the hurdles are there to qualify for benefits. So you have an open invitation to come back anytime, and we appreciate having you as an affiliate so that we have someone to refer people to that truly speaks disability as an expert and can provide the guidance people need.
I much appreciate it. Our firm is one of the few firms around that is involved in both Social Security and private disability. And I mentioned that there's interplay, and it's important that we do both. We found that every private disability policy, and I'll keep this short, but just about every private disability policy, whether it is ERISA or non-ERISA, has something called an offset clause for government disability payments. And there is that interplay, and it's really, really important for your representative to know about that and to be able to deal with it on both sides.
Well, I think that's good. I think having, Tara and I take pride in that we speak a number of languages in our practice, helping people with retirement and estate planning, and having, our partners like you speak multiple languages. And that's important because you don't want to have to go to 3 different doctors to find out what you got. You want to go to one guy and go, here's what you got, and here's what the remedy is. So we appreciate you joining us today. And Tara, I guess next week we're going to talk about modern annuities, one of the tools that we use in our practice. So we invite everybody to join us again for that. Tara, you got anything else?
No, I think that's great. Thank you so much, Greg, for joining us. And everybody, we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye,
Bye-bye.
guys. Thank you again.
You're welcome.